Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3.1 of the Solar Activations webinar. Today is Saturday, January 16th, 2016. I am Kwan, and I am very happy to see you here with us today. And Lotus is again here with me as well.
Hello, nice to be with you all again today.
Yeah, it's been a joy to have all of these previous episodes under our belt already, and especially to receive all of your commentary and everything that you are experiencing as we go through this series. In fact, it is so different from what used to happen when we would create webinars of this type of nature years ago. I mean, people were having nice meditative type experiences. Sometimes there would be intensity, but never before have we received so many real-time, truthful experiences from people around the globe. This truly has broken the mold, and you can clearly tell that in this last period of 6 months or so, the old matrix system is in the process of breaking down. The Leia Systems are breaking down. You can clearly see the return of the Lemurian flower of life grid. And that doesn't mean, of course, that certain things are no longer happening to people, that people are no longer feeling intensity or even heaviness or darkness from time to time, or tiredness, which is something that we're especially are feeling over here. None of that is true, of course, but what is happening is that when these things arise, the flower of life geometry is there to self-heal, self-repair, self-expand, and what have you not. And that is the biggest change that we are all in right now, I would dare to say.
Yeah, and it takes a bit of time to integrate that sort of thing. I'm sure Lao Tse is laughing when I say this, because when he was
I've shut them all off because sometimes that's hard.
I spoke to him the other day, and he said, if you think this is powerful, I mean, this is just the beginning.
Child's play.
This thing. But it's certainly something which is powerful in terms of experience. The way we're experiencing it here is powerful, and it does take a bit of time to integrate these things. It's very different. The reality we're moving into is completely different from the last one.
Exactly.
And you've got to expect that there's going to be teething troubles. Trouble is perhaps not the right word, but new experiences, new sensations, new ways of coping with things, new ways of creating your reality, basically.
Yes, to say the least, you know. I mean, think about it in the same way as a child having been inside of a womb for 9 months, floating around in the beauty of the fluid experience that they're having there, and then all of a sudden breaking through into this third dimensional density, no longer taking in the typical energy that it would be receiving and the nutrition that it would be receiving from the mother body, but all of a sudden being on its own. And in a way, leaving the matrix is very much like that. You know, even though the matrix is a parasitical system, and it creates, what is that word? A type of relationship that is almost bionic, or that is dependent on one another, where two parties... Symbiotic, yes. It is a very symbiotic relationship, but many people, as in psychology you can clearly see that, many people become codependent on that and even start to rely on it, even though it is sucking the life right out of them. It still tends to happen that a balance or a sort of codependency in that way is created. And leaving that matrix where we are no longer receiving energy and feeding energy into it and moving into tonal space is a very different experience. In fact, the first part of this particular episode, I would like to spend some time talking about some of the things that you have been writing into us. Of course, we are still seeing experiences from a spectrum all over the field, as we've been saying in previous episodes, but especially in this last week and especially in these last couple of days, a lot of people have been reporting things such as tiredness. Again, we certainly can relate to that. People are noticing old symptoms, physical symptoms, psychological symptoms, etc., re-emerging, and they are surprised with that happening, because these are things that people feel that they have let go of course, such a long time ago. One person who I was recently in communication with was Joya, who is also here on the Lemurian lands of Honolena-Ia. Or at least the Algarve, as we tend to call it these days. And she has been reporting all of these symptoms as well. And I've been reading it from a lot of you. And again, as I just said, we ourselves have been going through this too. So in order to help you understand this, I need to take a little journey. Ooh, that was my pen. I need to take a little journey with you. And I need to, I guess, remind you of what we are doing, where we are going, the universe that we have been in, and the universe or the space that we are entering into. And as we go into this little explanation that I'm about to give, I would like you to focus on, and I don't often say this, but I would like you to focus for a moment on the grand illusions. The illusion of form, the illusion of time, of space, of death, exchange, and apparition. Because that has been, that set of parameters and co-creative elements has truly been the modus operandi that we have been functioning from in years past, since your birth, basically, or since the illusion of your birth, at least. Just a second.
Absolutely. You just will not have done it any other way. Mm-hmm. Don't kid yourself into thinking that you've lived without these illusions, completely running the show. Yes. Up to this point. So it's new this time.
That is why for all of these years we've been focusing on archetypes, on these grand illusions, on all of these exercises that people can do to move out of spaces like this. And before I go into this explanation at the start of this show, I would quickly like to explain, because some people might be a little bit surprised that I'm sitting here a little bald right now compared to previous shows. But back in my day in the Ascension house with Lao Tse, this was the haircut that most of us, if not everyone really, would have, men and women. And sometimes when I am in a space where I feel I need to shed some energy, I need to release some old stuff and things like that, I like to have Lotus, actually, you're the one doing this, he's the creative star of all of this. I like to have Lotus shave my hair because of all that it contains, all of the energy that it contains, all of the vibratory energy especially that it contains. There's a lot of stuff that gets stored in the hair, which is basically why during the Ascension House times with Lao Tse, all of those thousands of years ago, and still happening over there today, people would very often, voluntarily of course, shave their hair off in order to create a new beginning for themselves. And that is sort of what I felt like doing recently as well. For those of you that know me, I sort of go through these cycles where I think, because I'm in the 21st century, I need a haircut, a decent, typical 21st century haircut. And then other moments I think, F it, I'm going to do what my heart tells me, and that is always very good advice, isn't it? At least if you're truly listening to your heart, and if it's not the mind actually pretending to be your heart. So having said that, I'm fine if anybody was wondering what was going on with me. Of course, one more thing before I go into this explanation, you still can add your questions to the dashboard that you have available to you if you're watching the show. And a little bit later in the show, we're going to start experimenting with the raising hand option, where you should be able to come onto the show live in audio format today, and then we can have some chats about everything that's been going on with you. So someone here, Coca, actually from Mexico, hello Coca, is saying, ready for expansion, no popcorn today, but crisps and an open heart. Isn't that lovely? We love you very much, Coca. And everyone here, of course. So, to get into my explanation, when you are undergoing a process or a journey that you are currently undergoing, the one that is called Ascension, the entry into tonal space, and therefore by necessity the exit out of the Saturnian matrix, you need to realize the fields that you are dealing with. So the Saturnian matrix has been a field, as you know, of 12 vibratory rates, 12 vibrations, and within each of those vibrations there were 12 frequencies. These frequencies, as I've said many times before, are determining the rate or the speed at which any given vibration vibrates. Now, if you've watched yesterday's upload that we've done, the Lost Knowledge radio show with Debbie West and Michael Hathaway, in there I talked about the chakra system, and I explained that basically the chakra system allowed people to only make use of the first 7 vibrations within that 12 vibrational universe. This is why science would often say that humanity has a limited range of visual perception of light, etc., etc., why our senses would function between certain parameters, and why there are even animals that could hear things, see things that we as humans couldn't hear. Dogs are notoriously well known for hearing sounds above the human range. Cats are notoriously well known to see things in the electromagnetic spectrum, which goes beyond the human range from infrared and beyond that, which is why your cat is always freaking you out as she's doing this in an empty room, and you're thinking, what are you looking at? You know, am I being haunted here or something? You know, but actually you will notice that that has changed a lot as well lately, that of course your animals are traveling with you into this tonal space, and for a long time we've been saying that the consciousness of animals is rising, much like the consciousness of humanity is also rising. So as we have been working with this vibrational space for the longest of times, we were stuck within those first 7 ranges. And you also see this come back in religion, for instance. The number 7 is a holy number in many religions. Christian religion, for instance, is one of them. You also see the number 7 come back in music. It used to be a very important marker in music, the division of 7. You see it come back in a lot of places. But that doesn't mean that it is the whole story. The entire reason why Ascended Life in the first years of communication always represented the 12 energy, the Council of 12, etc. For those of you that have been listening to our material for a long time, the entire reason for that is to allow humanity to encompass those 5 extra vibrations at the very beginning of the journey of ascension. You know, from basically number 8 all the way up to number 12. And when that starts to happen, and this is a process now that is actually nearing completion, as some of the last pieces are taking place, which I will go into in a little bit. As that starts to happen, you move into vibration 8, 9, 10, and 11 initially. And in this range of vibratory space, the chakra system starts to awaken. Again, for those of you who were with us back in 2007 when Yeshua was in this body and running the show, let's say, he would take people through Akene activations. You may remember those during the Mastering the Grand Illusions seminars. And that was all about triggering the chakra system into awakening, basically, into activation. That became possible because of the space that humanity was moving into. Ultimately, as humanity reaches the 12th vibration, which actually started happening near the end of October, I think it was about October 23rd to 28th of 2011, is when humanity started accessing the 12th vibratory rate that was possible. That's when all bets started to be off. This is really what the matrix-based Mayan calendar was always talking about, and which people such as Carl Coleman have been registering throughout the number of decades that they've been doing their work. As you enter into that 12th vibration, therefore, that's when the 12 DNA strands activate that you've heard so much about. And it's also around that time that a lot of people started talking about indigos and crystals, and actually even years before that, as the vibratory range of 8 to 11 became possible, because that's where those colors, that's where those energies really reside. It's when people activate their psychic abilities and all of these things that mostly paranormal type people, such as ghost readers and chakra readers and tarot readers, and all of those people were tapping into that field. Now, as that was happening, as we went from vibration 8 to 11, you have to realize that it is within that space that the fourth dimensional density resides. So it is as we journeyed through that you went further and further and deeper into 4D, into the archetypal realms. And everything that the Saturnian matrix was pumping into you as information, as parameters and as limitation, that was deeply compressed within your actual DNA structure, which shut everything down, started to come to the surface. Now, it's one thing to deal with all of that between that vibratory range of 8 to 11, but the party really gets going when you start moving into the 12th vibration. And that is where we have been, as I just said, from the end of October 2011 to just recently in 2015, June of 2015 to be more precise, when the flower of life awoke and when we started moving into tonal space. When you are on that 12th vibration and the chakras start awakening, the clash energy of the systems, as has been explained, starts to happen, starts to build and build and build, and you're literally working with two pieces of software, two operating systems at the same time. Now, all of you are used to working with computers, so imagine that your computer is trying to boot up the operating system for a Mac, and at the same time a boot up is happening for a Windows computer within the same piece of technology, and this is fighting.
It's a good metaphor.
It really is. It actually goes all the way back to the metaphor that Native Americans used to talk of with the good wolf and the bad wolf. And which wolf do you feed? You know, ultimately the wolf that you keep feeding is the wolf that is going to survive. So if you keep focusing on what you are always focusing on, hopefully, then of course that is going to happen. That whole clash was taking place. Then of course, as we move beyond the 12th vibration, is when the Merkaba system, the actual light body or life force body, really, when that system boots up. And you need the Merkaba not necessarily to survive or to be able to exist within the Saturnian matrix, but it actually is a requirement when you move into the tachyonic realm. It is from that point that there no longer is a vibrational system that is supporting you, and I'll go into that in a little minute. So you need to create at that point your own universal spherical reality field, which ultimately is what the Merkaba is. It is your own sovereign domain, as we then tend to say. At that point you become completely non-dependent on any system. So as we are moving through that tachyonic space, we then hook up ourselves as we are going through this journey together. And that hookup is basically the creation of the Merkava, which is what we've been working with for such a long time. Now, when that happens, and that has happened a while ago, which is what everybody has been feeling, it's as though sci-fi would say, you basically go to warp speed. You accelerate beyond the speed of light. You accelerate beyond any of the grand illusions that I've just asked you to focus on for a little bit. You accelerate into the speed of consciousness, as we then tend to say, which is of course speed zero, because it is about being everywhere at the same time, because time and space start to act very weirdly. And this brings me back to what everybody is feeling now within this grand illusions field that we are leaving behind. Because as the Merkava boots up, as you start to move into tonal space, very weird things start happening to the grand illusions. We all know the grand illusion of time and the quickening that's been happening there, the time acceleration that's been happening there. Now, that is not only happening because of a, how shall I say, because of a cosmic event. It's part of it, but it is also accelerating even further for those that are doing exercises like the one that we are doing, the ones that decide to exist on this leading edge of consciousness. And as this takes place, for instance, the illusion of time starts to completely warp. When I say warp, what I mean is one moment you may be experiencing time going super fast, the other moment you may be experiencing the opposite, and in some moments there may seem no time at all. In both meanings of that saying. Sometimes you feel that you have all the time in the world, and sometimes there's literally no time at all and everything just flies by. The same with the illusion of space. The illusion of space starts to warp as well, literally because it is now being translated by a different system, by the Merkaba system and the Merkava system. And you're the one that is actually still feeding that illusion, that concept into the Merkaba field, and therefore also into the Merkava field, which is why we always say you can immediately let go of all of these things if you so chose. Because there is nothing external still feeding that back into you. But I mean, people are experiencing all sorts of weird things with space, where especially things are appearing and disappearing, or certain fields are becoming present that you wouldn't necessarily be aware of before. These fields often are other forms of intelligence that are sharing the same vibrational space, only on a slightly different frequency to yourself. All right? So often these are alternate realities, and when I say other forms of intelligence, I don't necessarily mean at least very alien types form of life. I also mean other versions of you going through these alternate realities, these alternate timelines that are currently, of course, collapsing. So the biggest change, however, starts to occur with the illusion of form. And that happens to be the one, of course, that is mostly responsible for the creation of your physical body and the creation of your physical 2 strands of DNA. Now, what I've said earlier is that during the Saturnian matrix reign, as you existed within those first 7 vibrations, what used to happen there is that information was constantly being fed into you, compressed, compressed, compressed. All of that is now being deleted, being removed, simply because it can no longer be sustained within the Merkaba, and especially within the Merkava field. However, in order for this to be removed, it needs to be brought to the surface. It needs to become a conscious event. This is why a lot of you are going through very old symptoms that you thought you had left behind in vibrational space. But Ascended Life, of course, has always said throughout the ages, you cannot leave anything behind. You're taking everything that you are with you. And given that you have given your consent to exist within this matrix reality and to allow the matrix to do what it basically has done throughout the years, you need to become conscious of that. You need to release that. That is part of what is actually going on here right now.
And I think it's a good metaphor to use for all of this, the good wolf, bad wolf.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is about the choice you're making in every moment, whether it's the old version of you or the new version of you, which is obviously much more expanded.
Yes, exactly. And I would even dare to say that we need to move beyond this concept, even though we use it ourselves a lot, old versus new, because that really means as though there is a space that you are leaving behind that now is in the past, and there's something new that's coming ahead which is in the future. But it's not even like that. It is the total dissimulation, the total deconstruction of everything that you held together as the being that you are. That is what you are going through as you move through the tachyonic border into tonal space. So I hope that people understand a little bit what all of this means. I hope that you understand a little bit more now about the illusions and why they functioned the way they did. And I hope you also understand why we explained the information that we presented in the first episode of the solar activations. Because in there we wanted to give you a broader perspective of how you were operating, of how you were interacting with one another. And this leads me to a question that's been on these pages in front of me here for a few episodes now. And it's a question from Amy. And Amy says, can you explain the morphogenic field in more depth? Is this connected to the Flower of Life grid and to our 144 strands of DNA? Can you give us some more insight into how to work with this? And yes, of course I can. Thank you for your question. I wanted to bring the question up today because of the fact that it addresses the morphogenic field. Now, first of all, I want you to be aware of two differences in definition. There is something called the morphogenic field, and then there is the morphogenetic field. So the morphogenic field is actually the more abstract reality creation system that exists within a matrix or that exists within a tonal space. It is an energy-based or a tonal-based system. The morphogenetic field is literally about your DNA, about your physical matter, about your cellular structure and all of that. Both fields are capable of manifesting reality. Only the morphogenetic field does so within the electromagnetic spectrum. It is in the electromagnetic spectrum that the two strands of physical DNA, as we then call them, are formed. It is within the electromagnetic spectrum that your cellular structure is formed. And as we move into tonal space, the morphogenetic field loses coherence to be replaced by the morphogenic field. It is within that field that we intercreate reality. The main difference, I would say, between the morphogenetic and the morphogenic field is that the parameters that are placed within a morphogenetic field, a matrix-based field, do not exist in the morphogenic version of that field. In other words, there's no limitation, which is why I always talk about moving into celebration. Because celebration, another definition for celebration, is unlimited expansion, unlimited exploration, unlimited growth, unlimited consciousness, unlimited ability to manifest within your sovereign domain that which grows your soul, that which soul expansion truly is all about after all. So now, as such, the morphogenetic field is not connected to the flower of life grid, but to the ley line system. The morphogenic field is not necessarily connected to the flower of life grid, but can certainly interact with it. It definitely is, however, connected to the 144 strands of DNA. And this takes me back to my previous explanation, because as you are dumping the psychology, the mental systems, the energetic systems of the Saturnian matrix, and as you move into vibration 12, let's say, that's where that morphogenic field starts to kick in. That's when you start moving from 12 base DNA, which is actually what you've been working with for quite a while now already, into the field that we would call 144 DNA strands as you move out of the 12th vibration into tachyonic space and ultimately into tonal space. So that's how that works. I hope that helps you understand here.
Well, fantastic explanation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. But, you know, it is, of course, a little bit tiring, pardon the pun, to go through all of these symptoms, but it is also good to know that this is on its way out and that we are basically merely taking responsibility for all of these things. It is important, even, I would dare to say, to know that if we wouldn't be doing this, if we wouldn't be releasing all of these things that are coated on top of the double helix of the biological DNA strand, that this is exactly the sort of stuff that would ultimately lead to disease, that would lead to aging, that would lead to unfortunate death in the end. Because it is, you'd be surprised how little humanity really had to be convinced in the course of its matrix run to actually die, to actually age, to actually get sick. It was a very simple mechanism that merely came together as a certain number, not even 6 actually, a number of archetypes would start to connect and start to create all of these sensations and feelings that we then call fear, depression, etc., etc., etc. Just by placing those coatings on our co-creative and intercreative ability, we would adhere to the parameters that were in place and simply start to live these lives. So it is important that you are aware of these things. It is important that these are moving through you, through your consciousness, so that you can dump them and they don't lead to the causes that or the situations that I've just explained. Alex from France is with us today. Hello. And she says, thank you for explaining everything in more detail. I'm getting tired, she says, of feeling like a grandma of 80 years old. But your explanation of all of this will make it easier to manage. Of course, grandmas of 80 years old are not necessarily feeling the things that I've just described. It all depends on where you are, but I definitely get what you're saying. I understand as well that you must be getting tired of all of this. It's certainly not the easiest thing to go through, but it is definitely worth it. You will see this when you get to the other side. It is also definitely important for those that will follow that you have broken the mold of all of this and that you have opened the door for future generations of ascending beings, which you should be saluted for, in truth.
Absolutely. I often sit here and say thanks, but you don't know how much that means, maybe, to open that up, be the vanguard, and we used to call it the White Bridge, to start that journey across there. Makes it so much easier for everybody else to follow.
It certainly does.
And you truly need to be applauded for that. So all of these things you're going through, like we are with very good reason.
Yes, and one more thing actually I'd like to say about that is, how do I put this? All right, so what I've just told you about the vibrational field and what I've just told you about the grand illusions. Now, when you enter into tonal space, you're dealing with an entirely different field. You're dealing with an entirely different ball game. I think that you, Lotus, are and have been pretty surprised, actually. You've been mentioning this to me, that since the start of the solar activations, and not just the start of the solar activations, but also the start of us, all of us out there and all of us here coming together on the premium zone, in the webinar lounge, and hopefully soon in physical reality, and starting to do all of this, working on all of these things, you've been surprised, and many with you, I think, that things have felt so heavy, that things have been difficult. Not difficult, but harder on you than usual, right?
Yeah, just the level of effect was surprising. Not in a bad way. I haven't felt bad or down.
No, it's not that, is it?
No,
yeah.
But I have felt debilitated in some way and very tired and kind of drained. But yeah, there's a lot happening.
Again, literally pieces of the beingness that makes you up have been deconstructed, it's like, taking your car, a very old car, and having all the parts replaced and turning it into an interdimensional spaceship. You know what I mean? Yeah. So as that happens, it's pretty cool, actually. I mean, I think that you're gonna all look back when all of this is done, and when we're doing what we're going to be doing after all of this, and you're going to say that you're very, very happy that you have chosen to go through it, because you can't even imagine the space that we're actually moving into,
Fantastic just to be a part of that transition as well. A great thing to look back on.
Yeah. But so, as Lotus has also been saying, and others here have also been pointing out to me, it's been quite intense. I mean, it's a word that is probably mostly thrown around in every single broadcast that we do. Intense. Probably the most used word in all of our transcripts throughout the years, if we were to make the calculation. I'll ask Adamus about that. I shouldn't say that, because the moment I say that, they switch on, and it's like, okay, I'm having voices in my head now. But anyway, it's been pretty intense going through all of this. But the reason why I'm reaching back to that is also that this Merkava space that we are now in, and the tonal space that we are in, because of it, does not work on a vibratory level. You can see vibratory space, with energy moving back and forth, much like water would do in a container as you shake it around, depending on the rate of shaking. You can see vibratory space a little bit like that. So once you would get to a certain vibration, let's say that around vibration 4 or 5, you would start to begin to feel pretty good and pretty happy and pretty up there, let's say, let's not even talk about vibration 6 and 7, which is something that most people on this matrix-based earth would never even reach once in their lifetime. Because the human orgasm, for instance, which is sort of one of the key moments that people say is the most out there experience that most people have, that sort of makes them forget everything, that's on vibration 5. So 6 and 7, that would sort of be up to the Buddhist monks and the Zen meditators and people that spent like 60 years focusing on getting there, you know what I mean? Enlightenment, in other words, that's where that sort of would exist, vibration 6 to 7. So a lot of people are used to sort of following this wave as it would happen. They would climb and climb and climb and get to 3 or 4 or maybe even 5, let's say, and then for a while they'd sort of be going on that wave, and there would be a momentum that would happen, much like the laws of physics would tell you. In space, an object that is in motion will stay in motion. That momentum will keep building, or at least keep moving forward until there is friction that would slow that object down again. So that is how we would used to do it, and we would sort of rely on that, you know, that when we would get to a certain space, yeah, now I'm there, and you would know that for a little while you could just sort of surf that wave until you started descending again. In tonal space, it's entirely different. We're working with a spherical energy. There are no vibrations, there are no frequencies, and there's nothing to push you onward if you are not doing so yourself. The responsibility is entirely in your lap. So that is what is causing a lot of the confusion. That is what is causing a lot of the strange sensations that you've been having physically, energetically, mentally, etc. Because this Merkava is tying us all together, all of these different experiences, these different desires, these different rates at which we're moving are being tied together. And I knew this, of course, when I got into this job, when I actually said to Lao Tse, all right then, I'll take that timeline and I'll do this 21st century ascension thing. And you know, we sort of toasted a glass of wine over it back then, not knowing, foolish old me, what the consequences of that would be. Because being at the center of this Merkava, and you are experiencing the same with that, isn't easy. I mean, we are constantly working on managing all of these different Merkaba systems and keeping them moving in one vector together. And that takes time. It takes time to get used to, because there isn't that wave that you can sort of rely on. You know, when you get to the top of the mountain, then going down becomes easier. But that's not the same in tonal space, because it is your tonality that either keeps the sphere expanding or stops the sphere from expanding. One thing that cannot happen with a tonal sphere is contraction. It cannot limit itself. It can only go dormant, let's say. It can get into a state of balance where it takes another tonal creator or the same tonal creator to decide to take up the baton again and to keep moving. Which is probably why a lot of you, this is what I've been reading on Facebook a lot lately, a lot of people have been saying when they're in bed, the sheets are so nice and the sheets are so warm and I want to sort of stay here. And then there's this sort of battle going on at the heart of many people where they say, well, okay, but if I'm going, there's only one person that is going to make these things happen for me, and it's me, so I've got to get out of bed. And that is actually a very tonal experience. Now imagine that experience, therefore, without the illusion of time and space. Imagine that you're in your bed, that you're under those warm sheets, but there is no time. Can you even imagine that? That doesn't mean that you're just frozen. That means that there literally is no pressure on you to get up. There's nothing that moves unless you do. There's no world out there that keeps moving around and it doesn't all of a sudden turn to 4 p.m. while you still thought it was 10 a.m., for instance. None of that happens. So again, the responsibility is squarely in your lap. And I know that we have definitely been feeling that over here. You know, it's really up to you to make that decision and to say, I'm going to do this. For instance, we're going to be here doing this recording tonight. And for you, we're going to be here co-creating this recording tonight. You see, it's all down to us, which is also why you're going to see that a lot of the so-called psychiatric and psychological diseases of the mind are no longer going to continue working, because you're going to start feeling better about yourself as you take these steps, as you become the actual creator of your own sovereign domain, and you're going to feel so good about that without that outside pressure always bearing down on you, making it harder to do what you want to do, etc. So I really hope that you're going to start feeling the benefits of all of this, but it's up to you to actually do it. You see, so I'm saying all of this because I wanted you to have a different feel about the content that we presented during episode 1 of the solar activations, because of course there we were talking a lot about electromagnetic spin and the interaction between you and the planet, and ultimately the interaction in magnetic fields between you, the planet, the sun itself, how this would create rises and dents in the actual solar surface, and how this would create the morphogenetic field in that respect. Now that we're in the morphogenic field, it's a whole different story, as Leia in episode 2 has clearly explained to you. This whole system of interaction is no longer working in the same way. We're literally co-creating now, or I should say intercreating, with these cosmic aspects of ourselves. In fact, one of our beloved attendees, Dennis Mulcahy, I think, from Ireland, recently wrote into me to thank me, and he said, "Thank you so much for channeling the energy of Leia. Since I have met her, it's like having a new lover in my life." and he said, and the most beautiful thing is that it is reciprocal, that there's actually a love connection going back and forth, and that he can feel this. And that is, of course, the love force, the Da of the Akonai Da that I was telling you about in previous broadcasts of ours. That is now happening. And that feeling, Dennis, that you're having going back and forth between Leia or Leia and yourself, that is the intercreational relationship. It is on those tonal waves that you are together co-creating reality. Isn't that beautiful?
It certainly is, and I can completely relate to that, because it's very similar to the experience I had when I sat down to do the exercise with the sun. So
yeah,
I can really understand why it would feel like that, precious like that.
I understand. It's also very different, isn't it?
Yeah, but great. I mean, there are lots of good things we're hearing about as well. I mean, it's not all doom and gloom and tiredness and fatigue. It's there's some great things happening as well. We hear all of the time, so we're glad to hear that.
Exactly.
And for us as well, there's an enormous change in firstly the way that we are doing things here, but also the union that we feel together. You can even see it in the animals. We have two dogs and one cat, and for the longest time they stayed reasonably separate, but more and more now they're coming together, and it's becoming like one cohesive unit of love and unity. It's really really beautiful to see it. It's amongst all this tiredness.
No, it's actually true, because we're also seeing here. Lotus is very much into music, of course, and creation on that level. And recently, over here, we've gotten people together who are all sort of coming together, playing instruments. You've actually said yourself that it's a good way to see whether harmony and balance exists when people can come together and create music. And the reason why it is so interesting is that most of us have no experience at all. We have never even picked up an instrument or something like that in many cases. And yet people are creating music together. Gosh, this takes me back years, all the way back, I think, to 2007 or something. I believe that Yeshua had just come into this body and was still residing in the Benelux, in Belgium, in Netherlands, that sort of area before he actually started traveling the US. And he got a group of people together at one point, and he took out a flute and he said, everyone down in a circle. And he said, you don't have to learn how to play this flute. You can just play this flute if you want to play this flute. Now, I'm not going to say the word flute one more time, it sounds a bit funny, but if you want to learn how to play this instrument, then you have to forego the need to learn how to play this instrument. You just have to play the instrument. It is a very interesting approach, if you think about it, to bypass the concept within the matrix that time and space are required to do so. So he set everyone down and he started playing himself, and he started passing the flute around, let's say, and many people within that circle simply tapped into that energy. Of course, at that point they were within his Merkaba field, so that is why that became easier, and actually were able to simply play that instrument as though they had been practicing and doing it all their lives. This is sort of where we are going now as well, isn't it?
You feel it. It's nice to hear that. It's certainly how I like to approach an instrument, even if I don't know how to play it.
Yeah.
Just to throw yourself into it and use that as an instrument to express what you're feeling in that moment. Knowing that instrument is actually a part of you as well, is maybe that's something we should get everyone to try. It's something new like that.
I think
it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that would certainly be fun. But in order to do so, people would have to come together physically.
In a group.
Yes, in a physical group.
Really, I suppose.
Well, that would be nice. Yeah. Come on over.
Bring your instruments.
Jump on a plane right now, and let's get this done. I actually have, because in this episode, which is a bit of a recap, and we're going through everything, jumping around all of the information that's been presented by Leia, Loa. God, was that intense, wasn't it? When Venus came through.
And impressive.
Yeah, it really was. And so I'm wanting to take you through all of these things. And this is a question that came in a while ago from Ariana, from the United States. She is asking a question about something, she says, that had to do with what Venus was talking about, how we are standing with one foot in the old paradigm and with the other in a new paradigm, that we need to disconnect from the loop that keeps us in the matrix. She says not only astrology, but raising our vibration, our expansion of consciousness contributes to this as well. Now she says, my passion is guided meditation with a focus on exactly that. Are you saying best to drop that? And then she's saying, aren't your teachings expansion of consciousness as well? I've already, of course, privately answered to you about that, but I'm bringing it up right now because indeed it is something that was pointed out by Loa, by the energy consciousness of Venus in episode 3, wasn't it?
Yes.
And
in no uncertain terms.
In no uncertain terms, indeed. And it actually brought up several conversations here amongst ourselves as well, because even checking out therisingway.com, one of our own websites, we have a section there about astrology, for instance. And one of our crew members, and actually myself as well, Maria and I, we are sort of into, or have been for a long time, into the Mayan calendar, and we often reference the Mayan calendar to see what type of energies are actually around us. Or I have been known myself to pick an Osho Zen Tarot card or anything like that I've seen people recently on our Facebook group posting about the tarot, the original tarot deck, etc., etc., etc. Now, all of this is something that existed indeed within vibrational space. We created these tools in one way. We created these tools ourselves. In another way, these tools were given to us to limit us. All right. In one way, it helped us remember that we were in a cyclical loop. The zodiac being another example of that. Even the passing of the equinoxes and all of that sort of thing. The larger cycles, the smaller cycles, tarot, all of that stuff. We created these things in order to understand that we were in a loop, but at the same time, our adherence to these things also caused us to remain stuck within that loop. And that is truly what Hanaloa was talking about in episode 3, to let these things go because we are no longer in that space. Astrology can no longer assist us. What all of those things have become are as meaningless really as those really bad pieces of astrology that you can find every week at the end of a TV guide or something. Gemini, you are going to meet someone that is going to lead you to a clue and to a new job, or this would be a good time to start eating ice cream. That sort of silly things that you could read. It has become like that. No matter how deep you go through these pieces, how heavy you go into them, none of it will work anymore. It will in fact start hampering you. So now it all becomes about your own creativity, your own ingenuity, your own sovereign domain, your own tonal space. Create your own ways and your own methods to read tonality. Because all of these things are all about reading energy, and they are defunct now that the Saturnian matrix is cut down. I don't know, have you ever been into that sort of stuff yourself over the years?
Not in a big way. I did have some fascinating experiences with a guy that was a medium and running the pub. We went to. Mm-hmm. Check out the history of that. That was pretty interesting, and that included things like Ouija boards and things. So it's interesting, but already pretty low level stuff. And I can understand that it would be difficult for people, certainly if they're working with these things and have been for a long time.
Yeah.
To overnight just let that go, because it's exactly the same as everything that's happening at the moment. I mean, everything you've been working with is part of an old system. Mm-hmm. You've got to let all of that go, and this includes things like the calendars and the zodiac, of course. It's all part of
it. By necessity, actually, if you really think about it, the fact that there is such a thing as an illusion of time, and the fact that these calendars, even though they're energetic in nature, mark time, mark the passage of time, and how energies, archetypes and such work within that field of time, it just shows you where you keep your preference and where you keep your focus in that moment. Now, on top of all of that, I would even dare to say that from a perspective of responsibility, as you are connecting to a larger field of consciousness creation, such as the Imzaia Merkava, when you keep your focus on these things, you also feed this through, because the Merkava is a holographic and a fractal creation, so you also feed this through the Merkava loop, which in turn actually keeps people within the Merkava more focused on all of these things. It's interesting, isn't it? But it's also interesting how quickly it can turn around. And I believe this is why all of those months ago, I was actually sitting here at my desk once, and I was just planning to start doing some work, and all of a sudden Imzaia consciousness came through and demanded I wrote down a short speech, and ultimately they asked me to rechannel that speech, and that became an introduction to New Earth reality mechanics, which you can find on our YouTube page, where they, Imzaia, I mean, started talking about those 3 different timelines.
Yes.
And where people were starting to move into either energetic consciousness, or there were going to be all these new people that would step onto the path, and then there was a sort of midway group of beings that were holding the line, that had been doing this sort of work for a long time, and were going to keep the door open for people to make this decision, and even if people wanted to make this decision in the very last minute. I think that this is part of what they meant to say back then, because there are people who would rather give their trust and continue to give their power to these things, because they have become so reliant on them that they simply can no longer let go of these tools. But think about how parameter-based and how limiting that truly is, especially when you're in a space that is undefined, such as tonal space, where basically you can create anything you want. You can create any momentum, anything. And then, of course, these things just go out the window, don't they? I mean, the speech almost, I actually refer to it almost as a presidential speech that Hana Loa gave us in the previous episode was so very powerful. I mean, it reverberated through us and continues to do so. Must have been quite something for you sitting there, because I know you have a strong connection to the planet Venus, don't you?
Mm. Mm. Yes, it was extremely powerful to feel the energy, but also the content of the words for everyone listening must have been enormously powerful, life-changing.
Yeah,
that sort of information coming back. You can't deny the power of that. It's just so in your face, and sitting here next to it is I will attest to that.
I look forward to a future series when Hana Loa will speak again.
Me too, I really, and it was quite clear there's an awful lot more to be said. And what a vantage point to hear it from.
Yes.
Being perched right on the edge of the archetypical space, see the whole unfoldment of the entire story. What a privilege.
Yeah, it's really an ultimate form of disclosure, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, where all of this truth is now resurfacing. Paul Sunshine, what a lovely name, is here with us today, and he writes love to us. So love to you too, Paul. It's so good that you're here with us, and thank you for holding that energy over there, or that tonality right now in Hawaii. You're not the only one there. Yoni Shomaron, who's also part of the Solar Activations and a lifetime premium member actually, she is currently in Hawaii too. So there's more Imzaia than you think over there currently, Paul. And Diana Beaumont, beloved Diana from New Zealand, another energetic or very powerful point on Earth. She says, I love Hono Leia. I usually say, I'm off to see my lover, and I go and be in the sun to lift my energy to paint and make videos at night. So yes, everybody is having this beautiful love relationship with our beloved sun, and isn't it interesting? I know that probably you, Diana, and some others here will have had that connection for a very long time already. But I was thinking to myself as I was preparing for this broadcast, as we're now entering into feminine space, which is tonal space, of course, and we're leaving the masculine, patriarchal, vibrational universe behind. Isn't it interesting that at some point, not so long ago, our human species would look up into the sky and would see the sun and would think deep down, even though nobody would ever say it, we own that, that is ours, and the soil is ours, and the air is ours, and the seeds are ours, and this is ours. It's almost like one of those Disney movies when you see those gulls go mine, 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 mine. You know, that is very much a patriarchal connection where you would own that energy, and now it has moved from an ownership to a love relationship, which is exactly what is activating the Leia systems within yourselves, which is something that we're going to be talking a lot about in the next episodes and also in the next series, multiple of the solar activations. And I'll even bring the Leia systems, I'll have to bring that into the 5 Breaths webinar, which starts on January 23rd, which is not even 10 days away now, like a week or something.
It's all happening.
Yeah. And here's another lover of the sun. The sun is having a lot of affairs today. This is a beautiful thing I'd like to read, which we received on our Skype group. By the way, if you're not on our Skype group and you have Skype, drop us a line at ascendosphere@gmail.com and we'll gladly add you, because we communicate with about 34, 35 people that are on there now. We talk a lot back and forth. It's a very personal way to stay in touch. And this is from Sam Freeberg, who is in Scandinavia. And he says, I rarely see the sun here in Finland. In wintertime, it's visible just a few hours a day. Most days, the sky is just white or gray, of course black when the sun sets. It must be a very strange experience that people living there have that real unbalance. Also, he says, due to my strange sleeping schedule, it's quite normal that I see the sun only once a week or so. Well, Sam, you don't have to be in Finland for that to happen. That happens to me here too, and there's like 360 days of sunshine here in the Algarve. So, the day before yesterday, he says, I again saw the beautiful sun, and I saw it maybe not the way I used to see it, the mental way, but I saw it afresh. I was open enough to hear it without filters, without defining it, but just listening to my sensory awareness of it. It really reminded me how amazingly beautiful creation is and what a gift it really is. Not just the sun, but the earth as well. And to be here, to start to see it all, the beauty behind the veils. It's Christmas every day, it says. He says, I'm sorry. Then he says, I don't really write poems, but I did yesterday, so I thought I could share it. And I asked him a while ago on the Skype group whether I could read this poem out loud to you, because it is such a beautiful piece and it just so lovingly expresses what we're all experiencing right now. So here I go. This is Sam Freeberg, everybody. Sun, I love you. You touch us with warmth. I love how you share to us the beauty that is already here, how you open up the colors, those that were held within the heart, of the beauty of the dark. We hear our breath through the trees, this song, the everlasting love song. I know myself when I hear you. I am in love with you. Isn't that a lovely poem?
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it really is quite something to think that people in this whole patriarchal society would think that they could own this, and then they were like, how could we harness the energy of the sun or the energy of the waves or the energy of the air? Ever thought of just connecting and working with it? Much like we see these days with cache technology. It's not about harnessing this energy and storing it in batteries and then spreading it across a grid all across Earth. That is exactly what we've seen with the ley line system, and that didn't exactly pan out, did it? No, it's all about truly making a connection to your soul and generating energy from the Akene. That's how you create a true morphogenic field. That's how you truly work with the Merkava field. When you generate it like that, then there is no need for some sort of external source to provide everybody with electricity or with food or with water or with clothes, or there's no need for supermarkets. There's no need for any of that. We just create from our heart space, from our true beingness, what is needed in that moment. There's no need for energy to come in from anywhere else, you see, because of the intercreational relationship that we have with these beings. And that is why these cosmic aspects are now wanting to communicate with us again, not just to remind ourselves of that, but to reactivate those things within us, to allow us to realize that we are the sun, to allow us to realize that we are Saturn. When Saturn is going to speak, probably in episode 5, you're going to be very surprised what is going to be shared there. People that have sort of connected the dots over the years will know that the Lemurian name for Saturn is Menei Ani Ish, much like Isis recently spoke of the Matrix in her series, A Time Before History, on the premium zone of the Ascendosphere. This being is a beautiful being. I mean, you're going to be very surprised when you actually connect, I guess. All of that is coming back now. All of that is waking up. And what this year and the next year and 2018 after that is all about is us getting together and creating that society. It's not just going to poof into existence. And all of this is not just going to poof out of existence either. It's going to have to channel through us. So that's what we are preparing you for, to come together, to make reality shift, to make it happen.
Well, that sounded like a presidential speech actually at the end there.
And may God continue to bless America. Thank you. Where are we? I have so many experiences. There's actually something I'd like to read. A few episodes ago, or maybe it was even the last episode, I read an experience out loud by Ciro. Do you remember?
Yes.
Ciro goes to the supermarket. It's not the start of a joke, but Ciro goes to the supermarket and had this whole trip that happened to him there, where he started to become aware of all of this tonality and all of that. And we spoke of this in one of the previous episodes, and he wrote back in, and he said the following. In my opinion, the result I had in the trip to the supermarket had to do in a large part, he said, with the observation of the reality spheres and its visualization of that, which he did at the very beginning of the exercise. When I tried it at another point in time, he says, I was popping out of the meditation because to perceive oneself as not moving, one has to visualize oneself as out of the matrix space. You got that right. That's why we did it. Because if not, one tends to anchor the center not to move to a physical point inside the matrix. And that, I guess, he says, is what was popping me out of the dynamic meditation. Moving consciousness out of the reality sphere turns the experience into an out-of-this-world experience, he says, pun intended. And that is indeed true. You cannot do any of these ekarayas while still adhering to the concept that we know of as the matrix. You have to disentangle yourself from it, or you're always going to be popping back and forth, and that can be not only dizzying, but it can also be quite uncomfortable, if you understand. Let's see, because I'm flying back and forth between episodes here. Amy has another question, which she asked on December 28th. She says, Ascended Life pointed out that some people have reverse magnetics. In day 1 of the solar activations, you spoke about human beings and planets that have a negative spin relative to the general spin of Earth, and you spoke of the effects of this as well. Is this the same as inverted polarity? Could you go into this a little deeper? And yes, I can, of course I can. What I'd like to share about that, Amy, is that indeed it is so. that everybody, of course, has a type of magnetic spin, and that you're either going to be in line of the general spin field of planet Earth, or you're going to be out of sync with that. And when you're out of sync with that, that means you're either moving at a slower spin rate, or when you completely go out of sync, we speak of reverse polarity, because you're actually creating the opposite spin rate. And when you do that, you actually slow, to a small percentage, but you slow the total spin rate of Earth itself down, which of course is going to have an effect on how reality field is translated from the solar body, etc. Now, I know that you asked me this question because we spoke of this a while ago. So how do people get this type of reverse magnetics? Why is this part of their system? There's two reasons for that, or two possibilities for that. One, you could be an extremely negative, extremely depressing, extremely fear-based person, very aggressive, whatever it may be on Earth. That is, of course, going to reverse your polarity. But in many cases, and you will be surprised to hear this, most of you, it happens through bloodlines. For instance, the so-called reptilian bloodline that David Icke and others have spoken about throughout the years have the exact opposite, and at all times, the exact opposite spin than the actual spinning field of Earth. This is what actually creates the fact of cold-bloodedness, cold-blooded reptiles, as they then tend to say. This is literally an inverted geometrical spin. And this also happens in humans. Many times, because of the law of attraction and all of that, two people that are having a negative spin will come together and will create families together. Usually they attract one another. Now, when children are born from that coming together, usually their spin at birth is already a reversed magnetic spin because of the bloodlines of the parents. Sometimes it happens that very soulful beings, very powerful beings are born within that sort of a system, because this can go back generations for people, in order to break it up. And that means that that child will come in with reverse magnetics, but will actually be intended to turn it around in one's own lifetime and ultimately cause a feedback loop throughout that entire family history. As I was saying in one of the other episodes, we are literally rewriting our past, our history. In fact, as Isis said in A Time Before History, all of that is just a mental creation to begin with. At some point, none of these things will ever have happened. You see?
And for those of you that don't know, I mean, it's already a hell of a lot been rewritten. I mean, we went through a much worse history,
yes,
in actuality, than we all remember right now, largely due to the work of ascended masters behind the scenes in the whole timeline wars to remove some of these terrible events from history. It's happening all of the time.
Exactly. And I probably shouldn't say this yet, but I'm going to do so anyway. I know that Leia, in one of the future episodes, when that energy will speak again, is going to tell you just what Lotus said here. What Leia described as 35,000 years is currently the end result of how things have been undone. Okay? Originally, when we found this entire mess, and when all of this had played out to its full extent, and this may surprise you, the war on consciousness lasted 4.5 billion years. And ascended life got very stuck within that. And in fact, there are beings that would say that we went too far and we put a great deal at risk. many of us initially did not intend to go so far as to cut our own safety line out of here. But we all did in the end. We all had to dive as deep as possible in order to even find you, in order to even reach you. We looked and we looked, and it seemed as though there was no life here at one point until we descended this deeply into matter, where we found you, of course, finally. And to clean all of that up, at that point, initially, you had been stuck in this planetary and cosmic, at that point already, this matrix for 4.5 billion years. And we have been going through that 4.5 billion years, cleaning up, undo, restore, reset, erase, etc. And now we're about 35,000 years left as an actual experience. And within that 35,000 years, all of the wars that you know of, all of the interdimensional situations that you know of, have now been limited. Ultimately, the goal is that 35,000 years that is now open still entirely collapses in on itself, and none of this will have ever happened. It doesn't mean that the experience will be taken away, but the results, the negative results, will have been erased. I think over the years of Ascension training, Lotus, you have actually heard of many of these things happening, haven't you? And have even been part of some of these things being erased, especially in the time that Yeshua was here. But also together we did some of that work. So
absolutely,
we shouldn't go too deep into that here on the air. But just saying, this is being cancelled out all the time, every day that you spend on this earth. That 35,000 years is shrinking, actually. So it's a very important thing to realize. I'm just going through some of the questions here. There's a message from Ami from South Africa, which I'm going to read. Hello, Ami. She says, greetings and joy and love from me to you, beloved Kwan and Lotus. During the Hana Loa communication, there were many instances I felt as though she or he was talking directly at me. I know Rosianne Wolquette, she says, also felt that at times. Perhaps there will be others too. The astrology was one thing, the new moon, the blood moon, the moony moon. But when, she says, but when Hana Loa mentioned the 3 gifts to baby Jesus, frankincense, myrrh and gold, I nearly fell off my chair. I had been urgently looking for these items to help with healing of some body imbalance and disharmony. I found the items, and the gold I used was turmeric. Bless you, sweethearts, for your awesome hearts. I love you. Well, we love you too, dear Ami, that goes without saying. I just think it's interesting that everybody here has all of these very unique experiences when it comes to all of this. How do you feel about all of that, Lotus?
I think it's at this time more apparent than ever that all of these things are finally taking shape, because unfortunately what we've heard for years and years in terms of experiences written into us has often been more imagination than anything else, but it's very different now. These things are actually very tangible, and I'm glad to see that you're all truly experiencing it, and not just thinking it's happening.
That is quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, never before this thick and fast has it been coming in like this.
You know, and don't forget what the Hana Loa portal, if you will, actually said at some point during the broadcast last time, that this portal can lead to archetypal space, but it can also lead outside of all of that when 144 DNA strands are activated. So you're really just at the start of all of these experiences, and a lot of these things that are happening to you are not necessarily at the stage yet where you can truly take it. You know, that's just going to go wild as we go through this year and the years to come. Another person here, Alex, says, after the Venus transmission, I have felt more balanced and empowered. I think I even dreamt about Hanaloa as a human in one of my dreams, who had the same energy during the solar activations. She had a feminine face and a very masculine body, very powerful and grounded. It was as if she or he was telling me to rewrite my life, especially my past, and helping me to do it while I could feel that I had some resistance. You see, there you go. Alex.
It's very interesting, that one.
Yeah. It's very interesting because that is real. That is true. That did happen to you. I mean, before I even go on with your question, there's another question here on the board, or at least a comment where Ami again from South Africa said that the night after the broadcast, she dreamt that we were all with her, that we were in communication, that we were talking. Again, that really happened.
I remember you saying that actually happened.
Yes, these things happen. So Alex continues, I have come to realize that this resistance I have is that I'm freaking out about my own power. I didn't realize how powerful the solar activations were, as well as all the other meditations, such as the Flower of Life and the Power of 1,000 Suns. I'm actually afraid of my own power, she says. I suppose now that I have been able to consciously know what I'm afraid of, I can thus go beyond it and take off. There are times that sadness comes back, and it is as if it wants to make itself known to me so that I can release it. Actually, this is exactly what I hadn't even read this. Orchid just put this document together for me. This is exactly what we're talking about at the start of today's show. She said, I've got some physical issues and aches and feel like a grandma of 80. There we go. Much love to you all. Much gratitude for all that you do. And we are all just amazing, she says. Yes, we all are, Alex. And exactly, this is what is happening. These conversations are happening directly to you. It's very personal and very private in that sovereign domain that we all have. And indeed, I am certain, especially Hanaloa, would be one that would be responsible to communicate and ask you to rewrite your life, to drop your past, and especially when the conversation must have been about creating your future, Alex, and all of you really, is when the resistance must have come up. Because as I said, you may or may not believe me right now, but in the next 3 years, a lot of you are going to change your location, your way of being, your way of thinking, your way of living. What you are currently thinking about might be your day-to-day job, your mortgages, all of that. At some point you're just going to say, shove it. I'm done with all of this. I'm going to move forward and we're going to create together the next step for the human race. I know this sounds big, but again, as you said, it is, and you are too. You are powerful. Yeah. It's why we are even having this conversation. You know, it's because of what you are capable of, and because this needs to be put through the right vectors, you know, so that you don't go down the path of negativity, darkness, and all of that sort of stuff. You see. Lotus, what time is it? It's 8:30 p.m. We've been going for about 1 hour and a half right now.
Okay. Do you want to close it here, or do you want to take another question? Or
I am near closing it, but actually I didn't know that so much time had passed. And now that we are near the end of the show, I just want to see.
Hands up?
Yes, we actually do. Ciro's hands
Can we get the video?
up. I don't know whether we can get the video, but I'm definitely going to pull Ciro's audio into the broadcast here for a minute. And let's see how that works. Ciro, we have unmuted you and you should be able to hear us. Are you with us? Hello, Ciro. Are you with us?
Come in, Ciro.
I think...
There he is!
He's just gone green. Hello, Ciro.
Hello.
How are you?
Very well.
Hey.
How are you?
Nice to say hello in person.
Yes, fantastic.
Very nice. How have you been, Ciro? How's everything going for you with these exercises?
It's been very dynamic. I mean, I'm out of words. It's been a whole experience. I mean, I cannot put it into words.
I can feel it. Can feel it from you. It's deep stuff.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, if you just look back, I just wanted to say, Ciro, if you just look back to August of last year when you were here with us in the Algarve, already things were happening for you then. I remember you coming to me and talking about your keys appearing and disappearing, and that reality sort of became void behind you. That sort of stuff was already happening to you then. So I can imagine where you are with things now.
Yeah, it's been amazing. What can I say? Yeah.
Well, I know there aren't many words for this sort of thing, but I'm sure everybody that is joining us today is happy to hear you for a moment. Lotus, do you have anything?
Can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah. The reason I raised my hand is because I wanted to tell you about another thing that happened to me yesterday.
Okay.
Can I go on with it?
Yeah, please do.
I was playing Your If with my son, and we were chasing around the house. And as I was running, he was going to touch me, and I tried to jump over the kitchen counter. And as I jumped into the air, something in me decided to abort the jump and then crash against the granite counter with my left eye.
Oh my God!
And and all of a sudden I'm on the floor with this huge pain on my leg. And what I wanted to say about that is the time lapse that happened between me lifting and hitting the counter. A lot of stuff happened in that moment, and this has to do with time lapse. Time slowed down, and a lot of things have to come into consideration for me to abort the jump and hit the counter. I was on pain the whole day, and at night when I was going to sleep, I started doing the energy moving exercise.
Ah, yes.
And and I visualized the flower of life grid and decided to move myself to a place where I didn't jump or I didn't hit the counter. And when I woke up this morning, I could move because last night when I was in bed getting ready to sleep, I was in real pain. My leg was like hurting really bad. And this morning when I woke up, I found myself in a position that I couldn't get into last night, and I can walk today. So something happened there.
Yes, that's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. And this is exactly, what we need to do right now, what we need to play with. What you just said about the moments when time slowed down for you, in that moment where you actually took another choice, that being step one, and then when you later in the day decided to move to another point within the flower of life where it actually didn't happen, those two events were still separated in time. But now imagine when you get a little bit further along with all of this, then as you are in the air in mid-jump, let's say, time will not only be able to slow down, you will be able to completely stop it. And as you are in that space, then you will be able to immediately apply what you did a little bit later in the day, as you actually moved to another point in the flower of life geometry where it hadn't occurred, much like Ekara has explained in The Power of 1,000 Suns. You've done the exercise 100 times by now, I'm sure.
At least.
So when those two moments are going to collapse, when you actually are going to be that much in control of the illusion of time, where you can just hang there in that moment and make the shift in that moment, then you're completely going to bypass anything even happening to you. But you're very close to that. I mean, you're literally seconds away from that. So you could I mean, I'm not saying experiment by hitting yourself into a cupboard again, but you could also do this, of course, with positive things. This is the same how you could take a crystal like this, for instance, and turn it into something completely different. That's that same sort of an exercise. But great that this is happening to you. I'm so glad to hear this experience.
Yeah, it's been a very first it's been beautiful. All these the changes that I've been going through, they're amazing. I mean, and also I wanted to thank you for coming down here and get us out of here.
You're very welcome.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's the last time though that you should go into a universe without a roadmap. But I mean, we're all one. Ciro, we are all one. We're all connected. It wouldn't be even possible for me to, or for any true conscious being to even consider moving ahead and leaving others behind in something that is this, how shall I say, this limiting, this destructive. It wouldn't be possible. So of course we're doing this, and you're going to be doing the same thing in the future, my dear friend. I'm pretty certain that the same compassion that runs through ascended veins also run through yours.
Thank you.
Well, Ciro, thank you so much for being on the air with us. Our system works, Lotus.
That's great.
That means that from now on we're going to be turning this on much more often, and you've been the first to test this, so thank you. Thank you, Ciro. It felt like you were here with us in the room.
It's an honor to be here with you guys. Thank you.
The honor is all ours, right?
Indeed. Thank you.
So talk to you again soon, and namaste, Ciro. Wow, that was cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's great. And we've got the video to go yet as well, haven't we? Next step.
Yeah, we do.
After that, we can actually pull people in and see you live, chat with you live on video.
And then the next step after that, people can appear behind us here.
I think Ciro's not far away from that. I'm expecting him to turn up any moment. Really.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is so exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it really, really, really is. So, guys, now that you have seen the system in action, it's not that scary to come on the air with us. So next time, in the next moments that we'll do Q&As, or that we'll have a bit of a social chat, let's say, either in a hangout or in these webinar series, please feel free to always raise your hand, to join in, to ask your questions, and especially to share your experiences. Those are so important. Is there anything, Lotus, that you would like to share as far as experiences or thoughts or love goes?
Well, I don't have anything kind of loaded up, ready to say, but I do genuinely mean it when I thank everybody for being here and being part of this vanguard, which moves first. I can't say that enough, really. I think that's all I really want to say. Keep up with the exercises. That's also something I should note. That's fantastic, the amount of effort that's been put in, and we can see the results because of the emails that we're receiving. So keep up the good work, really, and thank you very much. I think that's everything I'd like to say.
Well, that's everything wrapped into one, isn't it? Because that's what it comes down to for me as well. Really, like Ciro just said, it's hard to find words to put to all of this, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's going to be like that for a while, of course, because we don't know any different. So
It's true.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit like that, but we're all going to have a good laugh together sometime soon.
Yeah, which is why I'm happy that in episode 4, Jupiter is going to do most of the talking because I really am having a hard time lately, getting all of this across in this way,
Well, the language itself, of course, is born out of an old system which is designed in itself to keep you limited. The words themselves, the way the grammar and the comprehension is put together, is entirely part of that old system, and you can imagine why it's becoming more difficult to use that in these newer times.
Not only the English language, but most languages on Earth are black magic in origin, which is why people spell words. You cast a spell. All of that sort of stuff is really black magic because it defines something that truly, in other words, should be undefinable. This is why you may have been working so long already on the exercise of manifesting a Lemurian seed crystal, and you may still not have come to any full results, although I've been told that the Lemurians over in Fluid Lemuria are saying, stop it already, it's getting a bit full here. A lot of those things that people are focusing on is manifesting over there, because while the Fluid Lemuria is a timeless space, in a certain way it is our future. Because not exactly the way we think of time right now, but let's just say that when our linear time, our finite experience of linear time with a beginning, a middle, and an end, when that runs out, that's when we'll find ourselves in the Fluid Lemuria again. So a lot of your crystals will be waiting for you there, but that's not good enough. You got to keep going. You got to bring them here. You got to bring them here. I want to read one more experience here, and this is by Yukia, who is also on this beloved Lemurian soil. She says, "All my love and thank you. I spent the night on Venus. I found out that I carry or am one of the passcodes for the stargate that is Venus. I have something to say about that. As I entered it before and went directly to the sphere of love, where I apparently teach," she says. "Same place as last night, but now some more holographic data was revealed." She says it's funny, no memory, she says, of much more, because for now it is all very overwhelming. "I love you," she says, "and I thank you again. I look forward to the others. I don't remember yet being on the others." Of course, she means the other points of consciousness within the solar system. Now, what you say, Yukia, here at the beginning of your experience, that you carry or are one of the passcodes for this stargate, that is very, very, very true. But this is the same for all of you. All of you hold the key. All of you hold the actual data, the actual knowledge within, the actual geometrical structure, if you will, within you that opens these beings up. That's why they're cosmic aspects of you. And yes, you do teach there. Teach is maybe the wrong word. You do express yourself there to beings that are being prepared right now, that are preparing themselves to enter into the tonal field as it is about to become beings that are no longer going to be part of the matrix. They are being taught a lot of history as to what this field used to be about, because there's a lot of tonal beings that are going to be coming in the next 3 years to help with the healing, the rebalancing, helping people move out of their limited reality spheres, or all of that sort of stuff. So that's what's happening there. Of course, I would imagine that would be pretty overwhelming. Someone else is saying here, Ami, that she keeps listening to this information and that it's very interesting. In her case, it was the Truth About the Matrix, which Orchid and I did a while back. And in her experience, she keeps getting new layers of information that are spoken about during these broadcasts that reveal themselves to her in phased doses, she says. For instance, she'd been listening to The Truth About the Matrix already several times, but never heard what I said about the quantum dimensions, the 13th quantum dimension possibly being born out of humanity's mind, etc. So this is very interesting as well, because this is actually you experiencing a different way of time, a different way of linear time, and placing yourself within that vector. Because if you were fully on the linear path, then you would have typically picked up each bit of data as the seconds passed, and it would be stored somewhere either in your long-term memory in the end, or of course initially in the short-term memory. But what I mean with the long-term memory, it could go in consciously or be buried somewhere in the subconscious. And the fact that you are hitting these pieces of information in a more non-linear fashion as you're putting the pieces of a puzzle together, as it were, means that you are beginning to get used to experiencing circular time at least, and ultimately tonality, where, as I've just shared earlier in the show, nothing moves unless you create that experience. So you phasing in to certain pieces of information is you getting used to working without the time-space field, and even, of course, the space-time field being present. So I hope you understand that. Ann Knight McMillan is saying the same. Thanks for the head up. Each time I re-listen to any of these works of wisdom, I pick up one more of the endless phased doses. Thank you truly, Kwan Yin. Well, thank you, Anne, for being with us. I'm just reading all of these things because I hope they bring confirmation to you, as to what is happening for you. Anyway, I'm going to have a quick look here in the questions board. One last question I'll quickly read. It's a practical one from Diana. Is there a place to look on the ascendosphere, she says, to see a visualization of the different energy systems relative to the body? Is there, Lotus? In the future?
There soon will be.
There soon will be.
You just have to do this exercise where you can look a little bit into the future, and yes, the answer is yes.
Yes.
So we're working on that sort of thing to help people understand, and we're working on that sort of thing as best we can.
Yeah, so basically, Diana, move your point of consciousness to February, March 2016 so that you can pick up the information that we're going to be putting on then already tonight.
Yeah. Email it back to us and we'll just put it.
Next week she's going to write, oh, and here it is. That's what we hope anyway. Anyway, people, we could keep going on. This is a very relaxed episode of the solar activations, and we've only almost actually been going for 2 hours now. So I think it's time to start closing down. But it's nice to be able to just have a bit more of an informal chat in this recap episode. It might even be that before we're done with episode 6, we're going to do another one of these, maybe around after episode 5 or something, because it's good to especially now that the system is working, to hear you speak and to see that back and forth.
The point is well, we need to do what's needed in the moment. That's apparent. We can set these things up, but it's very obvious from things that come back that then more explanation is needed, or more time is needed, more of an integration period is needed for these things. So I feel probably will need another 1 or 2 of these sessions where people can get a lot more of their questions answered, especially after more of the planetary bodies have spoken. Bound to be more and more questions raised.
That's probably a very good thing. Yes. So we'll do that. Whenever it is most convenient. So today, there have been a lot of words, we've spoken a lot, there have been a lot of questions and answers, and we've been flying through pieces of information back and forth through episodes and all of that stuff. So in these last couple of minutes, as we say goodbye tonight, I would simply like to invite you to get to a point of focus. And just for a very brief moment, focus on the heart space. Always on the heart space. And let the Leia within your Akene the sun within your Akene wake up and become spherical. And allow that point to move into the Leia system of your body. Let that point that is your heart be reflected holographically 1044 times throughout your entire body structure in a perfect, harmonious, balanced whole, with the flower of life energy flowing through all of these points and connecting them. And then let that space expand into your Merkaba and into your Merkava. And just stay there for a while, 5 minutes or so, after we conclude this broadcast, and pick up every other piece of information and other streams of consciousness that have been and continue to be with us here tonight, because we may have used a lot of words, but the energy of Hanaloa, the energy of Hanolea, the energy of the other planets, other beings of ascended life are here with you too tonight. So in closing, stay in that space and see what you pick up in the next few minutes, and report that information, those experiences back to us, either via email or via one of the other means that we have available on our website. That being said, thank you for being with us tonight. It was a true joy being with you. I am Kwan, and I'll see you again for episode 4 of the Solar Activations